What's going on, everybody? My name is Justin Gaming. So now that the E3 hype has sort of settled down, I figured I'd talk about some of the games that impressed me the most at this year's E3. So as you can see by the title, today I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man PS4, or should I say Marvel Spider-Man, because the game was, of course, showed off at the end of Sony's E3 2017 press conference with a gameplay reveal, and at the very end we got a full title. I guess it's going to be called Marvel Spider-Man, so they're not going to have like any subtitle or anything like that. They're just going to be calling it Marvel Spider-Man, and we also got a release window for the game. It's coming in 2018. Now, we didn't exactly get an exact release date, but if I had to guess, right now I would say probably sometime in June or July, because Spider-Man just seems like one of those characters, one of those games that you would release in the summertime, because in the summer there aren't too many games to play. It's just a dry period in terms of gaming, so I think that would be a good period to release the Spider-Man game. Now, today I just want to quickly talk about, the gameplay reveal that we got, give you some of my impressions on everything. So, they ended the conference with Spider-Man. Of course, Sean Layden came out, said there's going to be one more game by one of the most respected developers in the entire gaming industry, and that's, of course, Insomniac. So, we see the city of New York, of course. It looked really cool. The game definitely, like, what we saw from that quick trailer we saw last year, what we saw this year, the city definitely looked a lot more like filled up and complete now that, we got to see a full gameplay reveal. So, we definitely, there was this kind of like Ratchet and Clank feel to it because, of course, Insomniac, they're the guys that made Ratchet and Clank. When we just see Spider-Man, he's like running around, he's doing parkour, and he's like traversing across the city. I definitely got this Ratchet and Clank feel, which is definitely not a bad thing, because Ratchet and Clank was, one of my favorite games of 2016. It was such a fun game to play and such a breath of fresh air from everything else. So in that sort of sense, I'm definitely excited because what we saw looked really cool. Now, I want to talk about a few things such as stealth and hand-to-hand combat, because at the very beginning when we see Spider-Man, we see like who he's up against. There were some of Kingpin's henchmen, and there were also the inner demons that are run by like Mr. Negative. So at the very beginning we got to see a bit of stealth, and we saw Spider-Man basically go up against some enemies, and then he actually used some stealth. He went up behind them, snuck up behind them, took them out quietly. And then, there were tons of things that you can do, like using your web with the environment. I believe there was this one part where there was like an anchor or something like that, where he used his web and pulled it and took out 3 enemies all at once. It was super cool. And there was also, the hand-to-hand combat looks really cool. It really reminded me of Batman Arkham, the Arkham series in general. I know that, like, probably this combat has been being used in the other Spider-Man games as well, so they're not exactly copying the Arkham games. It's just that, like, it really reminded me of that, like, how Spider-Man could basically, like, he's standing in the middle, you have, like, tons of enemies surrounding him, and then they're all trying to fight him one by one, and then he's, like, doing acrobatic jumps all around them, and then, like, you can also use your web attacks while punching at the same time. It just looks super cool. We also saw some of the different gadgets that he had. Like, I believe we only saw one gadget, but he's probably gonna have more, because there was like this thing where you can select different gadgets if you look at the HUD. So there was the gadget that he used in this gameplay demo was while he was still in stealth. There was like an enemy coming because he saw that one of his like other henchmen were being tied up by the web, so he was like investigating. And then when he went to go investigate, we saw Spider-Man kind of like throw this like this gadget at the wall, and then it was kind of like a tripwire thing where when the henchman walked past it, like the sensor caught it and it like hit him with this web thing and tugged him over, and he got trapped on the wall. So that was really cool to see. It's cool to see, like, since Spider-Man is this character we've already seen in not only movies, comics, but also other games in the past. It's cool to see these new gameplay innovations that Insomniac is doing. Marvel really is giving them a lot of creative freedom to write their own story and create what they want with the Spider-Man game. They're not once again creating an origin story that we've already seen so many times. This is taking place like they said 2 years after Peter Parker has already become Spider-Man. He's 23 years old right now. He just graduated college, I believe they said. So yeah, he is definitely an experienced Spider-Man, but of course we already knew that. So yeah. Yeah, okay, so now I want to talk a bit about the villains. Of course, I said earlier, we saw some of Kingpin's henchmen. So the really interesting thing was that after Peter Parker took out some of Kingpin's henchmen, I believe, or was it the Inner Demons? I'm not entirely sure. But he got he picked up one of their phones, and then he got a call from Kingpin, who is Wilson Fisk, I believe. And Kingpin was actually in prison, right? And then Spider-Man was asking him, he's like, hey, do you know who's in charge of the Inner Demons? Who's running this thing? And then Kingpin was telling him, it's like, if you keep my men alive, then I can tell you, or something like that. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of cool. And then Peter Parker was like, with his humor, making remarks like, oh, alright, I'm going to help bad guys from other bad guys. This is not how I thought my day would turn out, which is, the humor we expect from Peter Parker, because he's obviously, a funny guy. But yeah, we got to see after that, he shifted over from the Kingpin henchmen over to fighting the Inner Demons, and then he went on the roof and he fought this kind of mini boss. It kind of changed the camera angle to a much more focused camera angle, where it was this really 1v1 battle instead of having all these guys around you. And then we just basically got to see he was trying to do different attacks, but none of that was working. So then whenever the guy would attack, he would counter by doing a dodge or something like that. Yeah, he did all these acrobatic jumps to dodge that, and then yeah, just in the end he took him out. It was cool. And then of course we saw later on in this helicopter, we saw Mr. Negative, who's Martin Lee, and he was actually Mr. Negative. And then we got this epic battle between them. The helicopter came down. It was just super cool. And Peter Parker, we got to see some of the parkour, of course, because the helicopter was literally going through a building and stuff. Peter Parker, Spider-Man had to do parkour through the building and dodge all the debris falling down and everything like that. It just looked super cool. Oh, and by the way, yeah, so after that they had this chase where the helicopter was going throughout the city, and Spider-Man was chasing the helicopter by web slinging across the city. And I gotta say, the web slinging looks super cool. I think that, I haven't played too many of the other Spider-Man games. I have played, a few of them. I believe I played Spider-Man, Web of Shadows, and, The Amazing Spider-Man on, friends' PS4s and PS3s back in the days. But, the web slinging just looks super cool. It looked really fluid, and the way he could just, literally wall run across the walls, and, there was one part where he literally even ran up the wall. It just looks super cool and smooth. And, yeah, the web slinging is something that I think for a Spider-Man game you really got to nail down, because that's one of the key aspects of the gameplay is really traversal across the city. So I think from what we've seen so far, it looks super cool, just traversing across the city. I can already tell you, I'm probably gonna have so much fun when that game comes out, just traversing across the city, web slinging all over the place. It's gonna be super fun. Now, one negative thing I quickly want to mention, it's not exactly too bad of the thing, it's just that I noticed when the whole helicopter was crashing into these buildings, we saw a crane falling down, and Peter Parker had to stop the crane from falling down. Instead of actually making gameplay out of that, they decided to do more quick time events where you would see Spider-Man running, he would be doing it by himself and using his web to stop it, and you would just press a button triangle or square or circle to stop it, instead of actually playing that part yourself. I mean, in that sense, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it could still be really cool. It's just that I feel for these big epic moments for Spider-Man, you really gotta save the day because you're Spider-Man, you gotta do all this crazy stuff. Doing that in a QuickTime event is not nearly as cool as if you were actually playing that yourself. I mean, I guess in the sense that since it's so crazy, I don't know exactly how you would put that into the gameplay to just stop it from hurting everybody in the city. So I guess it's making it a QuickTime event isn't exactly a bad thing. I just hope that all these big epic moments where we're playing a Spider-Man, I hope it's not always going to be these QuickTime events. So yeah, that was literally my only complaint or kind of worry throughout the entire gameplay demo. But overall, I was super excited. It was of course my game of E3, which it's not it was super mind-blowing or crazy. It's just that Spider-Man, I'm super excited for this game. It's one of my most anticipated games, of course. So yeah, seeing the gameplay demo after not seeing the game for an entire year was just super awesome, and knowing that we're going to be playing it next year already, it's going to be super cool. And of course I'm covering it on my channel. It's super fun. And yeah, so one final thing, this wasn't actually in the on the stage demo when they showed it at E3, but if you go search up on the YouTube video, they have like one of those after credit things. Like when you go watch a Marvel movie, they always have like the movie, and then once it's over, they have like the credits, and then after the credits, there's like that one scene that's probably like around 30 seconds to a minute long that like leaves you really like intrigued and wanting to know what happens next. Like it usually leaves on a mystery, so they kind of had something like that here, where if you search up the Spider-Man video on YouTube, you can basically see that after like the 2018 logo, you see like a cut where after the helicopter fell, where Peter Parker, you know, stopped the helicopter from crashing down on everybody on, you know, the city streets. We see like obviously people are like, oh my god, this is crazy, what has just happened? People are taking photos of the scene, and then we see Miles Morales, actually he's there, he's taking photos, he turns around, yeah, and we see him, of course. And I don't think this is just a reference to Miles Morales. I think that if they're gonna show him like this in this gameplay demo, he's definitely gonna have some kind of significance in the actual story. So yeah, you know, for those of you who don't know Miles Morales, you know, I don't know the comics too well, but I know that he, you know, there was like some point in the comics where he was also Spider-Man as well, so that's definitely kind of cool to see. It could be possible that, you know, he could play like a pivotal role in the story or something like that. So as of right now, we still don't know like everything that's going on with the story. I doubt that like, you know, Mr. Negative or Kingpin's in the end is going to be like the major villain. I'm still expecting we're going to get like a bigger villain like later on in the game or something like that. I think these are just like side missions that you can do right now. I think there's got to be like a bigger villain than just Mr. Negative for Spider-Man, you know, because although he is like a cool villain, he's not like one of those big villains that everybody knows, like someone like Green Goblin or something like that. So yeah, I guess I leave the, you know, Spider-Man E3 gameplay demo super excited and happy that we got this. It was quite an extensive gameplay demo. It was like 8.5 minutes, so yeah, we definitely got to see a lot of the stuff, like the mechanics, the open world, everything like that. So yeah, I'm super excited, of course. I'm going to be making lots more videos on Spider-Man whenever we get more news about the game, so if you're new to the channel and you're super excited for Spider-Man, of course make sure to subscribe down below to get everything. And yeah, over the next week I'm going to be making more E3 videos about other games like Days Gone, God of War, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, and I'll probably make videos about Sucker Punch's new game that didn't get announced, and also Last of Us 2, how that wasn't shown at the conference. So yeah, make sure to let me know down below in the comments all your thoughts on Spider-Man, and with that, I'd like to thank you a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.